Now by the hearth I rest, my battered blade, old friend by the fire, and an image I keep, their faces to see, each one so dear, forever bound to me, in a warrior's ageless heart.
Welcome back to Synergy Bonus. We are a bunch of guys who like to sit around, drink, talk about games. All kinds of games. Tabletop games, board games, video games. But mostly we drink. What are we drinking tonight, Spoon?
Leinenkugel's Canoe Paddle. It's a Kolsch, and it's tasty.
And it goes down like there's no tomorrow.
What is a Kolsch?
We've had this discussion before.
I know.
Or we will in the future, so...
It's like a darker style Pilsner, I'd say. That's the best way I can describe it.
I would describe it as going down like a fat kid on a seesaw. But anyhow.
Either hard or easy, and it's both are acceptable.
Today we're going to be talking to you about
Chrono Trigger. My favorite RPG of all time. It is the #1 spot, period. Nothing's going to dethrone that, I feel.
It ranks rather high for me.
It's a very classic piece. It's consistently ranked one of the best games of all time, one of the top RPGs of all time. You know, nobody has a bad thing to say about this game other than that the sequels were lackluster.
Yep. This game came out in 95?
1995, March 11th.
On my birthday!
Some
Happy birthday
significance.
to me!
Originally for the Super Nintendo, and later, or not too long after that, re-released on the PS1.
I'm going to tell you the Super Nintendo is the superior version because of the speed and whatnot.
There's a problem with the ports.
The PlayStation version, well, it plays nice and all. They added new cutscenes and stuff. Those cutscenes are consistently kind of laggy and jarry in sections. And
It's a problem not just with Chrono Trigger, but with Final Fantasy V, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, with the emulation in the port from Super Nintendo to PlayStation 1, and subsequently
even
on the
continued
PSP.
onto the DS.
Yes, there was a problem in that emulation port for those games, and as you said, the DS, it's the same port.
And it was recently released on Steam, sort of recently.
And it was on the Nintendo eShop for the Wii and the Wii U, and that port worked fairly well. It was the third bestseller of 1995, came in number 3 overall, having sold over 2 million copies by 2003. This game was put together by what we would call Square's Dream Team.
One thing to note, that number may not seem impressive today.
But back then,
In the 90s,
that was on
yeah. It's like I referenced Baldur's Gate selling 700,000 units within a year.
Yeah.
That was an impressive feat at that time.
As I was saying, this game was put together by Square's Dream Team. I mean, there was 50 or 60 people that worked on it, but the big names associated with it are... man, my pronunciation is terrible. Hironobu
Sakaguchi,
the creator of Final Fantasy.
Yep.
Yuji Horii, the creator of Dragon Quest. And Akira Toriyama, the creator of
Toriyama.
Creator of Dragon Ball, Blue Dragon, countless other things.
The art style
It just-
was definitely
The
Toriyama's.
most
And
recognizable
also
style.
because it was in Dragon Warrior.
The music, which we're going to touch on a little bit later, was Yasunori Matsuda,
Until
and
he got
also Nobuo Uematsu.
Also of Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy fame. Yep.
So this game has quite the pedigree going on for it.
And it shows. It really shows. There was a lot of love that went into this game. It's a turn-based RPG. There's not much to say about that, with the exception of, instead of your traditional Final Fantasy turn-based... Random invisible counters. This one, everything takes place right on the map. If you run into an enemy, the counter takes place right there. The menu just pops up and you go.
If you run into a scripted ambush, you will walk so far and then enemies appear somewhere and attack
They
you.
ambush you. It's visually impressive for the time, and it worked out well.
And it aged
Similar
fairly
to-
well.
It
Secret
aged
of Mana.
very well.
Unlike Secret of Mana.
The remake of Secret of Mana.
And it is a 16-bit game, but it's still very pretty, very bright and colorful.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. This game, the magic system was unique, as in the middle of the game you learn magic and it levels up with you. And it was nice because with your teammates you can do dual techs and triple techs, so you can get some really neat combos. Mm-hmm. And some of the triple techniques can be invoked with special items, so characters you wouldn't expect to work together are working together in it.
Magus, Marla, and Luca.
And stuff like that, yeah. It works really.
And one of them has
really
to have the certain accessory.
Invokes triple technique, yep. And this game was one of the first games that I've ever played that had New Game Plus. Mm-hmm. And I've beaten this game numerous times because New Game Plus allows you to open up the other endings to the game.
Also one of the first games I ever played that had multiple endings.
Exactly. I think 15 endings at the time.
Mm-hmm. Are we counting the dev room or no?
Dev room's definitely one of them.
Oh, okay.
And because of the New Game Plus, you can really superpower your characters. And that is definitely something I enjoy doing to get those power tabs, the speed tabs, magic tabs, all those throughout the game. So, okay, Chrono's leveled up. Oh, we're going to do Marley now. Oh, we're going to do Luke. And then just...
So what are you doing? Spending the next 12 hours in the Black Omen?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? I'm going straight to the final boss and two-shotting him.
No, the final boss takes a lot. So anyways, yeah, the story. Speaking of final bosses, it starts innocently enough with a fair in town. It's the Millennial Fair. And
it's full of, Starbucks and lumberjack beers and weird little beanie hats and soy.
You put the gun away and let me continue talking.
It's okay. It's based on the wisdom stat, so it's not going to do that much damage.
So, Chrono, your main hero, wakes up, you get some money from mom, you go to this fair. And
make sure you feed your cat.
I'll get to the cat. I'm going to touch it right now. The more you feed your cat, the cat just asexually reproduces, and you have more kittens, and it can lead to a really unique ending, unintentionally.
Or it can give you a bad ending if you did everything else right, but you didn't feed your fucking cat.
So Chrono goes to this event, and there's little things that you can do there and whatnot. And there's this girl running around, and you have to bump into her. You can't avoid her. Like, you literally, she just runs right into you no matter what. And then it gets interesting there, because everything you do is scrutinized. If you talk to her, if you touch her gem first, how you interact when she joins up with you. This is Marley. Marley joins up with you. And if you take her around the fair, how...
Did you eat that girl's lunch?
Did you eat that girl's lunch? Did you rescue the cat?
They set a trap for you early on to show that decisions that you make in this game matter.
And then it never comes up again.
They set you up with a whole bunch of stuff that are the traditional things you would do in an RPG. Investigate this, eat that person's lunch, wander into people's houses and smash pots to steal their money. And it's just the stuff that if you played any RPG at all in the last 30 years, you just take offhand is what you do. And then you get arrested and put on trial. Yep. It's all scrutinized under a microscope.
So, after all this, one of Chrono's friends is demonstrating her teleporter pods that she made. And she asked for a volunteer. So Luca, Chrono's friend, asks for a volunteer, and Marley volunteers. She goes up, and something goes horribly wrong. And Marley's pendant's left there. Luca's followers shows over, and they try to figure out what's going on. Chrono, being the silent protagonist he is, picks up the pendant and goes there. And you get flung into the past.
You're 600 AD, 400 years in the past.
And
the reason it's the Millennial Fair.
Yep. And you find out that this girl, Marley, is basically masquerading as the princess or queen.
That's because you find out that
the queen was never rescued as she was supposed to have been. And you find this out, and you have to go rescue her because things are not...
You've screwed up the timeline. Snake, you've created a time paradox.
The original hero of time.
So, yeah, you do a lot of jumping back and forth through time, fixing things that you inadvertently screw up, or things were just not as good as they could be.
It really plays with the whole trope of if you go back in time, don't do anything because you'll screw up the future.
Yep.
What'd you do? I went back in time and made sure that my best friend's mom didn't get crippled by a machine. And now she's a bitch and her parents are divorced. That doesn't happen.
No, that doesn't happen. You do fix the machine, or do the machine to fix her legs so they're not she's not a cripple. And in the ending, she wants to dance with her husband. If you don't do that, she's just sitting there. Well, that's nice. Everyone's dancing and whatnot. And it's very kind of depressing when you know you can fix her legs. Man, he was just kind of jumping back to that. You guys come back to the present. You get put on trial. You go to jail. No matter what, even if you were the most upstanding citizen.
It's a kangaroo court.
Oh, yeah.
So you go to jail. You break out. And as you're escaping, you go into the forest. There's a teleporter there. And you get flung into the future.
You find out the reason why you were arrested and put on trial is that that girl that was impersonating the queen in the past, there wasn't much of an impersonation going on because she is an identical granddaughter, and Marla is actually Princess Nadia.
Yep, and that's why you went to jail, is because you abducted the princess.
Yep.
So when you make your escape, you get flung into the future, and it's bleak. It's very, very bleak.
Like Shadowrun levels of bleak.
No,
Bleaker.
Shadowrun wishes it was that bleak. Shadowrun hasn't wiped out the majority of humanity.
And they discover that an entity named Lavos destroyed the world in 1999. And
the far-flung
future.
The year 2000. The distant future.
2000X.
They decide that they need to do something, and they encounter a robot named Robo.
Well, actually, that's not his name.
No.
That's just the easier.
That's the easy name.
I always kept what his original name was.
RX
It's a serial
dash.
which you can actually
97.
input as his name. There's enough spaces for it.
That's a bad name. We're gonna call you this.
And there's actually a little subtle reference to Final Fantasy VII in this game because it was being developed at the same time.
The prototype was
Eris Dome.
Ah.
Yep.
That's where everyone goes to die?
Yep. Pretty much. Oh, that's bad. That was really bad. You rest in the Entron. You feel rested, but you're still hungry.
Trav, go and pour the rest of your beer on Toma's grave.
So, from there, you kind of jump to the end of time because you have too many people traveling with you. It's their gimmick to
you
limit
can only
your party
have so
to
many
3 people. And from there, you do a lot of time jumping, and it turns into a very much you need to save the world because Lavos is bad. And you're
assembling heroes from across time.
Across time. You find out that in 65 million BC, that's when Lavos came to the planet. Lavos is a parasitic entity from outer space that basically feeds on the natural resources of the planet.
Before you find that out, you find out that Lavos is first referenced when this mage, Magus, was going to summon him to his 600 AD. So you go to fight Magus, and you team up with your friend from 600 AD, and you find out, I was summoning that motherfucker so I can kill him.
Magus, or as I like to call him, not Piccolo.
Cooler than Piccolo.
So this parasitic entity basically will just sap everything until it's strong enough to destroy everything, leave it spawn, and go elsewhere.
It literally just looks like this giant volcanic tick with all these stone mineral plates up and down its gorgeous
And spiked
body.
ones.
Yep.
So,
Then you find out that's just a spaceship.
And the other thing is, this is one of the first games, and I'm going to say spoiler alert, but it's not really spoiler alert, because this
Came
game
out in
did come out in
1995.
Chrono dies. Your main character gets obliterated by Lavos
One shot.
at, I'd say
Halfway point.
a little past the halfway
a
point.
little over halfway through the game, yeah. Depending on which ending
And
you're going for.
At this point in time, you can do some side quests and attempt to get him back, or you can just do everything up to killing Lavos. There's a lot of decisions on when to kill Lavos then, and whatnot, and this all affects your ending. We said there are 15.
Going back to what I said about the
endings.
decisions mattering.
Yep. So you can beat it with Chrono, you can beat it without Chrono, you can beat it with the time machine, without the time machine. You can beat them in this time period or that time period. It was well thought out, very well done. The characters are memorable, and
The music is memorable.
The
and
music,
phenomenal.
yeah. Let's touch on, like I said, Yasunori Matsuda. When everyone thinks Square, they don't really think Nobuo Uematsu, but Matsuda is another Square veteran, and he did a fantastic job with the score to this game. There are so many good tracks.
So meme-worthy. Like, the one track makes me think of Brian Pepper's.
The Jurassic Rhythm Dance.
Oh, God. No, God! Why are you showing his face?
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I'm not. I am a little. No, you're right. I'm not. But Matsuda actually worked on the sequel to this game, because this game actually did spawn 2 sequels. One was retconned.
Radical Dreamers.
Radical Dreamers, which was on the Super Nintendo Satellaview, which was a satellite-based gaming system. Basically, certain time of the week, you could download your game, you could play it and whatnot, and then that was that. I actually have a reproduction cartridge of Radical Dreamers, but you cannot save because it doesn't have the Satellaview thing. So I can do it in a one-shot go, but it's not going to ever work. The sequel to this game is Chrono Cross, and it does have Chrono, Marley, and Luca, but they've died, and
It's following the cinematics they added in
the remake.
Yep.
Not the remake, but the re-release.
The re-release for the PlayStation, where there was a cutscene at the end where it shows like 2000 or 1004, 1008 AD.
It's the bad ending where there's a
someone kills them and uses the mass immune. It's Dalton, actually.
Yep. Chrono Cross on its own is a fine, fantastic game. As a sequel to Chrono Trigger, it is abysmal. If you're gonna play,
forgettable.
If you're gonna play Chrono Cross, play it as Chrono Cross. Don't look at it as a sequel. It is a great game. Don't get me wrong. It is a great game. There is a lot of forgettable characters, because there is a lot of characters, but it's forgettable.
Like, how many was there?
Like 40.
Given that's a spin-off of just one of the endings, I would have loved like 14 other sequels for each of the endings.
No, because one was the Reptite ending. And,
I'd have played that.
Maybe.
And then you got the ending where Chrono actually talks.
Yep. One word. Can we get to the now, please?
Yes.
That's more than a word. That's a sentence.
Well, that's what he speaks. So
I would give it's Chrono, so he might not know the difference between word and sentence.
I'm going to touch on one of the other endings.
Show me on the cartridge where the ending touched you.
Where one of the portals opens up, and your cat runs into it, and your mom would follow, and you would take the time machine to go get her back.
Feed your fucking cat.
If you had all these fed the cat, you get all these cats, all of them. Like, I've had like 10, 15 cats run into the portal, and she runs after.
Whereas if you go and complete all the side quests, you get an ending instead where Chrono and Marla like grab hot air balloons and they're hugging and kissing.
That is if you destroy the time machine. Yep. That is the basic ending number 1. Basic ending number 2.
I always view that as the good ending.
Basic ending number 2 is if you left the time machine intact, which I like that one too because, like he said, decisions matter, and you were saying side quests. At the very end, Robo says, "I don't know if there's a place for me in the future because everything's been changed." When you go back,
doesn't exist anymore.
When you go back, it shows everyone. It shows, and if you decided to kill Magus or not, it would show Frog as a human. If it doesn't, it would show just Magus. It would show Frog doing whatever. But it shows Robo and this female robot sitting on a cliff while you see the time machine going by, and it's a nice touch.
I just love the ending for where you do destroy
Why are you
the time
forcing
machine
your heteronormativity on those poor robots?
Stop.
Or you just see Chrono and Marlo just floating away with the balloons, and you just see this landscape, and it's got that whatever this track is right now.
The track is too far away times.
The track that's playing right now.
Yep. This game is a masterpiece. Hands down.
Oh god, I got that nostalgia feeling right now because I'm playing that track in my head because he hasn't edited it into the video yet. And it's playing in my head, and now I'm remembering, oh god, 6th grade.
It's a good-ass game. End of story. Good ass game. 5 out of 5 from me.
4.5 out of 5. I don't have the nostalgia factor. I was like 26 when I played it.
Yeah, he played it only a few years back now. And then...
Not that long ago.
What would you give it?
5 out of 5. It's one of my top 5 games. And the only reason it's not number 1 is just due to nostalgia of other games as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Like, for me, Chrono Trigger is at that top. If there's ever a game that knocks it out of the spot, I'll be impressed. Some games have gotten really high on that list, and you know what? Maybe one of these days, each one of us will do a top 10 RPG or top 10 game list in general. But Chrono Trigger is up there on my top 10 games, but it's my top RPG, hands down. So with that, good night.
Good gaming.
Good gaming.
Hey guys, Vigorex here. If you like what you heard, go ahead and give us a little thumbs up with the like icon down below.
Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a comment. And if you want to watch a different video, click over here.
And always, as always, good night and good gaming.